This is a podcast from the Angel News Network with author Joel Anastasi interviewing Ascended Master Saint Germain as channeled by Phillip, Elton, Collins.
Greetings, beloved humans, being human upon the surface of the planet. I, Ascended Master Saint Germain, come to you at this time to discuss how the USA, the United States of America, plays into the creation story itself. During the early era of humanity, advanced beings were on this planet. They built the pyramids all over the planet as energy generators, and many temples were built upon spaceship landing platforms. They ended up having an atomic war with one another, which almost destroyed the entire planet, life upon it. This ability to destroy is still within your human DNA, since you are a component. Many of your DNA elements were exchanged with these higher beings, these advanced beings from other worlds. Humanity is once again at a point where they can destroy themselves or advance as a human species. Let us review some teachings from the past to assist you in your present situation, and then we'll move into some Q&A. All of creation is the vehicle for God expressing and experiencing itself so that God may know itself as God. All that is necessary for God to know itself is for each part of God to know itself. This is what all of God's creations are doing, including human beings here on earth. Humanity is involved in an experiential process of discovering its divinity through an ascension process, a process of raising awareness of its divinity. More specifically, humanity is attending a LOVER-VERSITY called Planet Earth, learning to be master teachers so that you may teach and manifest love throughout the universe. As you have been told many times, dear ones, you humans on Earth are in a final 2,000-year spiritual age which began in 2012. This great creation story began with no thing, which is simple energy. Consciousness is energy and awareness of itself. Out of that consciousness came the decision to create various worlds, each of which would engage in an ascension process of loving from a limited consciousness of who they are to the full consciousness of knowing they are God, which is love. This is the process of God experiencing itself so that it may know itself, a process of ascending consciousness, dear ones. In time, consciousness created this galaxy, this solar system, and this planet. Earth was designed to be the ultimate experiment in the universe because it was seeded by 12 star systems instead of the usual one. That seeding created a huge ascension challenge in which human beings would work through the diversity represented by the 12 star systems to discover the truth that you are all individuals of one creator. Therefore, you are all one. Earth, in effect, offers the rigorous curriculum needed to prepare humanity for the enormous challenge and privilege of being master teachers of love and oneness out into the universe. This is the contract you humans have made. Humanity in its growth and development has gone through many golden ages, each with the guidance of the divine realms through advanced civilizations not of this world: Lemuria, Atlantis, Egypt, Greek, Aztec, Inca, Hopi, and on and on. Each collapsed with their populations disconnected from the higher realms and the truths that they received. It was and is the intention of the higher realms that we consciousness take form and thrive on earth as a necessary path to humanity's mastery and divinity. For many attempts during the various golden ages to seed we consciousness, some of these documents have survived and are continuing to show the way. Sumerian clay tablets, Dead Sea scrolls, Egyptian Book of the Dead, and on and on. All these documents laid a foundation for the founding fathers of the United States of America to create what they created. We consciousness and the foundations of democracy took root in a more powerful way through the inspiration of the higher realms in the English colonies, which became the United States of America. Again, dear ones, the founding fathers and mothers of America and the founding papers that were produced, the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution were all inspired by myself, Saint Germain. This is an essential aspect of my soul plan. As I have said many times, America is the hope of humanity. It is the way shore for the rest of the world. The destiny of America reflects the oneness of the world, dear ones. In some ways, it appears America as a model of weak consciousness and democracy seems to be stalling. Democracy is now dominated by huge global concentrations of corporate wealth and power, so that your government is more focused on the needs and desires of the powerful few rather than those of the average citizen. This is another example of humanity learning what is through what is not. The frustration of citizens contributed to the election of divine souls, such as the one called Donald Trump, as an authoritarian who threatens your democracy, your institutions, and threatens your very democracy itself. But I shall assure you all that what has happened is really serving as a wake-up call to the citizens of America who have taken your democracy and freedoms for granted, as half do not even bother to vote. It is this failure to take full responsibility for your democracy that is those in power who would threaten your democracy. Please know, dear ones, I see signs of a great awakening in the demonstrations protesting the attack of your Capitol, largely expressed by women and the youth. These people who feel this passion within themselves will run for office or support those whose truth is the same as their own. These demonstrations reflect the same energy that inspired your founding fathers and mothers and those who fought for American independence. This energy now inspires a new generation of Americans to refound America, to reestablish weak consciousness that inspired the creation of your country. As you can see, the refounding movement is being led by the feminine and youth energy, whose DNA has been programmed to begin correcting the imbalance of the masculine and feminine energies that has existed far too long. This imbalance, this has caused the war through toxic masculinity, has caused destruction, confrontation, and much of the misery of the human race. Without the balance, you cannot have creation, dear ones, only destruction. The refounding of America represents the second coming of the full plan of the planet, of humanity herself. This is why I call America the way shore for the rest of the world, a beacon of light. Remember, dear ones, all is in divine order as we all take the rest of creation and combine it within our heart space, and knowing you are divine beings having a human experience, expressing and knowing yourselves. Now, how may we assist you through our Q&A?
Saint Germain, thank you for joining us today.
You are welcome, dear one.
That was an absolutely magnificent summary of creation and who we are and what the purpose of the United States was and where we are in this moment. That was very impressive indeed. Thank you.
You are welcome.
So here we are, and it seems to be a clash of we consciousness and me consciousness, the drama that's been going on for eons, according to what you just described, explained.
Yes, indeed. It is all moving from the me to the we. That is the basis of the planet's learning tools.
You have told us that we were, throughout the drama of the Trump years, which are not over yet, of course, but he's no longer president, that we would be experiencing a clearing and cleansing, and that at some point we would be grateful for all this. I'm not yet to the point of gratitude because we're still very much immersed in the drama. We still see many of the elements of attempts to undermine our democracy. I'm not trying to be political here, but I see the drama played out in the Democratic Party trying to preserve our democracy and being involved with good governance, and the Republican Party, which seems to have elements in it which are trying to undermine our democracy and playing culture wars and having people get immersed in conflict rather than solving problems.
They're all aspects of the same thing. They're all aspects of one another, whether you call it Democratic or you call it Republican. They're all aspects of one another, as darkness is an aspect of light, as a problem is an aspect of the solution, in order to facilitate, through the ascension process of the planet, the necessary clearing and cleansing. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
They're all Shakespearean plays upon the stage, and in one incarnation on this planet, I was involved in those writings. It's all in divine order is the most important thing to play. is to understand this, not go down into the density of it, to become aware of it and understand what you are creating, which you've heard many times before, is a parallel path that does not intersect with the conflict, for that will fuel it.
You know, so much of the separation and conflict, it seems to me, has been fueled by forces that have taken hold of a free press like Rupert Murdoch. I was recently reading an analysis in the New York Times of how over the years Murdoch's press empires have destabilized democracies in 3 continents, and Fox News and the right-wing outlets he controls has played a major role in the culture wars that have occurred in the United States and ended up producing a Trump. The spotlight seems to be at last being put on them, but I continue to see them as a destabilizing force in our society and our democracies and fueling the culture wars. What would you say about Murdoch and the right-wing press, which is really not so much a press as a propaganda outlet from my perspective, and I'm a trained journalist?
They are the underbelly of the unhealed aspects of humanities, which must come to the forward in order to release it and heal it. They are revealing themselves for who they are. Those who resonate with weak consciousness, those who resonate with the ascension process of the planet and humanity, can see this and understand that it is an obstacle that you must move beyond. Does that help you?
Yeah, I understand that there's great value in the process, and in my humanness, I want to see us work through and solve these problems. But I guess there's great value in the process itself that's unfolding here, and perhaps it is a clearing and a cleansing. Kind of help we who are trying to, who are dealing with the frustrations and the pain of watching these culture wars. Perhaps you can help us see what the value of this process is, and rather than wish we were at the destination, to allow ourselves to appreciate what constructive value there is this process unfolding.
Surrender to not knowing. Surrender to the process itself. Surrender to it is in divine order. And all of this is part of the clearing and cleansing that is necessary. You can make a choice not to go into the density and the details of the culture war itself. You can become aware of it without immersing yourself into the fight. And as you've heard many times before, to say to yourself, this is not my fight. I am making another choice individually within my soul plan, the timeline of my soul plan, to make other higher frequency choices through the raising of my consciousness. Do you understand?
Yes, I've heard your counsel before about the idea that this is not my fight. That has really helped me a lot. I have to confess I'm not entirely there, because when I see some of the pain and drama and how groups are victimized by some of the behavior of those wielding the culture war, it's difficult for me to accept the idea that it's not my fight.
Let's review what your beloved Archangel Michael has recently explained to you. That this is activate by going into this is activating your nervous system, which is allowing yourself through the energy and the activation of the nervous system see yourself worthy and good enough to be alive, dear one. This is a vital teaching. Pay attention to where you are connecting and going into the fight, which will activate the nervous system and allow you to feel and realize that you are still alive. Do you understand?
Yeah, so you're suggesting that it's the stimulation that we get from engaging with it that is one of the reasons why we do it?
It's the addiction to the stimulation which causes it and also causes the wars on the planet. Can you see that?
So we should observe it without becoming emotionally involved?
Follow your resonance discernment, which you've been taught. Follow your resonance, how you feel about it, your discernment, how you think about it, and allow that to be the path forward. And knowing that individually you can make a choice to ascend beyond what is happening or not. Those who stay stuck in it will remain in it and perhaps need other lifetimes or an existence on another planet or another galaxy to finish their ascension process. There are those who will be making that choice consciously and unconsciously. But if you make a conscious decision through your non-resonance and discernment with what's happening, then you will keep the elevation of your frequency through your higher consciousness in place, which will ensure your ascension, your individual ascension process. And then you will connect through collective consciousness through those who are doing the same thing. Do you understand?
Well, I do. To bring it down from the ascension process to how we as individual citizens can behave, what's your counsel for how we can make things better?
By simply working on yourself, understanding that your relationship with self is your toolbox to your ascension process. Observe what's going on and make a decision whether you're going to go into the density or not. But have it all be based upon your relationship with self, self being a reflection of all that there is, that humanity has chosen to experience reality through something called self, the relationship with self. Let that be your focus, and that will direct you through your resonant discernment of what paths you take. Do you understand?
So if we work on the idea of loving ourselves, we will be more generous in terms of our ability to embrace the other and make it
and reflect that love of self out.
Yeah.
Because it is the unbalanced, unhealed relationship with self and the leaders who are perpetuating this within themselves that's causing the drama. In the higher realms, all leaders must demonstrate a healed relationship with self prior to taking any authority. You understand?
Yeah, you and others of the higher realms have told us that a lot of these leaders are wounded children who only feel better about themselves by dominating others, and that's part of the drama of what's going on.
Yes, it keeps their nervous systems activated to allow them to know that they're worthy and good enough to be alive. So they go on their daily basis of creating one drama after another on a world stage.
Is that what's going on with the Russia and the Ukraine war?
I think you know it is, don't you, dear one?
Well, I know it is, and I would like you to expand on it because we have listeners who may not. So it would be so valuable to have if you could bring the perspective of what we've really talked about to the drama and the confrontation and the murderous experience that's going on right now in the Ukraine.
It's a reflection, as we've said many times before, of toxic masculinity, attempting to control what they did not create by these artificial main-man geographical nation boundaries, which in reality change all the time, and fighting over some imaginary boundary or land grabbing when you already have one of the largest land masses of all the nations on the planet. It's a matter of choosing to be that or not, through healing the balance of the masculine and the feminine energy as we addressed in our introduction. Does that help you?
Yes, Mr. Putin, it seems to me, is an example of what you've been talking about the wounded soul who needs to control others in order to feel good about himself.
Exactly. And the people can decide, the people of the nation called Russia can decide to follow that or not.
What's going on there? We're under the impression that the people of Russia can't hear anything from the outside world because Putin and his government control what they hear, so that they're really largely supporting Putin and his invasion of the Ukraine. What's the truth?
The truth is that the mothers and fathers know that their sons are being sent to a war that they don't totally understand or agree with and are being killed. So it's being brought on a very personal level of loss of child. And this is creating an underpinning within the Russian culture of a discontentment, of people not agreeing with what is taking place or not understanding it. And it is building in a groundswell, dear one.
There's been a lot of speculation about what it would take to overthrow Mr. Putin. He seems to be firmly entrenched, although with so many things going against him, I don't know to what degree that is so. Mr. Putin, in his increasing fear, which is my read of it, is beginning to threaten the use of nuclear weapons. What would you say about that?
He's waving a wand, a war wand, a threat. You also have the North Koreans doing the same thing, and inadvertently sometimes the Chinese, which have been financed largely by the United States of America business. And it's all a threat. If these nations did that, it would begin their own demise and possibly kick off a third world war, which we in the higher realms do not see happening. We would most likely intervene because of the nuclear arsenal. As we began this time together, we explained that long ago there were advanced civilizations who were controlling the planet and helped creating what is now humanity, who went into a nuclear atomic war. Once the higher realms saw in 1945 the beginning of your nuclear inventions, we began observing and monitoring that process. We would not allow the annihilation of the planet because of its intended ascension process for creation itself. Do you understand?
Yes. As I'm listening to you, I'm going to express it this way. I thought in the past I heard you emphatically say that if there was a threat of destroying the planet, that the higher realms would intervene. This time I think I heard you say most likely intervene. Was there a difference in the assuredness that you would intervene?
No, not at all. Saying most likely is dependent upon whether they really are going to do it or not, or whether it is a threat. At present, it is perceived by we in the higher realms that it is sword waving in your vernacular.
So, Saint Germain, you did such a wonderful job of giving us the big picture, and then we refined it down to the drama of what's going on currently now. How can we pull all of this together so that we can leave a message as to how the average citizen of the world can respond to the big picture and the drama that is currently going on in our cultures today?
Trust and surrender. That of which you do not know is in divine order. Religions call it faith. We would rather call it knowing. And if you cannot know it, then apply faith in your knowing and surrender to not knowing and surrender to knowing that the planet is within a sacred divine ascension process, that the purpose of the planet is to teach and be love, that many of the human beings are being trained to be master teachers of love, to go out into the cosmos, and that many of you, that is an aspect of your soul plan to be the teachers of love, which is the building block and the foundation of everything. Trust and surrender, dear ones, when you do not know that there are higher forces in place that are benevolent, that are based upon love.
So, instead of getting drawn into the drama, we would be best focusing on ourselves and our relationship with self, you have said, and to love ourselves so that we can reflect that out and love others. And that is enough to engage our focus and attention without and being misdirected into the drama of that we observe every day out there in our lives.
Remember, self, the relationship with self within the human experience is a reflection of all that there is a choice that you made in being human to experience reality through the self.
So we should focus on ourselves rather than all the drama that's going on out there.
As you heal the relationship with self, which has been tampered with through various processes in the past, as that relationship raises its frequency and through your consciousness, and your relationship with self is more of a positive, loving one, then that resonates and discerns with the collective consciousness of others, creating a unified feel of oneness and love. And that will be the building block of the future of humanity and certainly the planet herself.
So that's how we heal ourselves in the world.
Exactly.
I think that's a wonderful place to end our conversation, Saint Germain. Thank you so much for that wonderful discussion and perspective on what's going on in the dramas of our world today.
A simple, or perhaps not so simple, reminder, dear ones. Farewell.